What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. We're starting the week out here, going back to a site we just did some clearing at. We did like, the place is 2 acres. We probably did an acre and a half of it was pretty wooded. They're basically expanding their house. They're building onto it, so we're headed out there to do some maintenance on the trees that are remaining. So this is something that I had figured out a few years ago, and I've kind of stumbled my way through this process. I think that it's valuable for you guys to that are offering like services. If you offer any sort of contracting service, this is an interesting way to think about it. It's what I would call a mental model. I learned that from a guy named Charles Koch. He's one of the Koch brothers. I worked for him for a time period in DC, and he had these videos that you could watch and you know, learn things from him. And one thing that I pulled from him was mental models. So I try to stack mental models on top of mental models to give myself somewhat of a charted map-like view of like what's going on, even though you never really know exactly what's going on, but you can kind of stumble your way through there in the darkness. So mental model I created here was one, productized pricing. So when you do a service business, you've got a couple options. You're selling either labor and time, you're selling materials, you're selling product. So what I decided to do was just sell a productized price list. So we have a day rate, which is ultimately time. So I've got gear behind me. Let's see, today we're running like Bob, we're running the lift, and that's it. And then I have 3 guys. So on today's crew, I have a day number on what we run for. Fortunately, today we're able to run 1 truck. Sometimes we have to run 2 trucks. That might determine if we're bringing the chipper in or whatever. So, you know, how much capital are we bringing to the site? On today's day rate, it's a $2,800 package. This is what we sell. We're not doing it by hour. We're not doing it by the job per se. So it's not like we went out there and quoted all the trees and we're like, these trees are going to be $2,800 to do, because this is going to be a multiple day project. And this is what the unlock was for us. Once I started doing the productized price list, it was a lot easier to communicate with people. This is what we're offering. So I know how many days I have available for 24. I know how much equipment I have available for 24. That could change, because I could double up the equipment and then by default, you know, also the guys, but then have, you know, double the capacity. But at present, I've got about 110 days available left in 24. I've got a certain amount of capital, let's call it like 350,000 worth of gear. And then I've got guys that I have now, which kind of are, I don't want to say interchangeable, but guys come in, guys go out. So the process that we're selling is a productized service on a day rate of $2,800. If we do a multiple rate, like a multiple day, like 3 days or more typically, we'll do a $2,200 service. If we book out, and the reason for that is we don't have transport. Like I can, if it's gonna be, we're gonna be there for 3 days, I can leave things there, I can set the job site up the first morning. So it changes the equation. Also, we've got a customer that's more invested in us, so we're happy to go down to $2,200. We give, you know, there's an $1,800 savings there for them to do so. If they go with a 5-day service, we're gonna give it to them for 10 grand, just $2K a day. So essentially at $2,200 a day or 28, they're getting a free day in there. So if we sell the week out, it's like 10 grand. So if I were to sell the month out, it's like our capacity at present with what we're offering is a $40,000 a month thing, 10 months a year. Because there's just certain months like the holidays that are just weird and choppy. We do revenue, but not really. So that lets me then build the company backwards. So if 10 months a year at 40K, fully maxed out, best optimistic situation I can have on the physical side of our service offering is 400K in revenue. Like so there I run all my costs. What's my insurance? How many hours go on these machines? For example, every machine we have does about 500 hours a year. Some do 600, a few will do 800, some will do like 390, 400, but basically they're 500 hours a year on a machine. How long does a machine last? If it's a Bobcat, I like to get rid of them before 2,500 hours. That's just what I like to be at. If it's an excavator, it's 4,000 hours. If it's a tractor, it's 3,500 hours. And so then I can figure out, okay, what's the cost of a new product? Like what's the new tractor cost? What's the used price on a 1,000-hour tractor? What's the depreciation rate? You can start building these metrics. And so you guys may have heard me where I have the I've got the dollar per horsepower like metrics. That's something I work with, where it's like, okay, this machine is 70 horsepower and we're charging 210 an hour for it. It's $3 an hour per horsepower. That's good, but I don't like it as much as I like something else that might be $5 a horsepower. If you go down to a 25 horsepower machine, like, which one's the better option there? And if you can get $5 an hour per horsepower, yeah, I'd rather run a 25 horsepower machine at 125 an hour. Now, I use this in my internal metrics. What I present to the clients or the customers, and the difference with us is a client is anyone who spends more than $10,000 a year with us. A customer is anyone that spends less than $10,000 a year with us. A fan is someone who spends less than $1,000 a year with us. So I do coaching calls, for example. Those are $250. The guy buys 1 or 2 coaching sessions. He's a fan. So we have fans, customers, and clients. Obviously, our focus is our clients. We're trying to figure out, okay, how do we present something to our clients that's very useful? This particular client has bought a 2-day maintenance service, so just under $6,000 for what she wants. She bought a $30,000 clearing package last month, and then she decided she wanted more. So we focus on like our clients. But a productized pricing model is helpful in doing this. Another way that you can think about your service business, besides productizing your price list, is how are you going to go ahead and incentivize your operations so that everything is relatively as smooth as it can be, without the unknowns, without the variables. Some guys will go likewise hourly on the labor. I don't like the mismatched variables there. If I'm selling someone a day rate, the hour labor guy is subjective. Oh, you're getting 25 an hour, or you're getting 45 an hour, or you're getting $80 an hour. How many hours did you work? What we do is we just do a 30% cut to the crew. So if we do revenue day, easy number is $3,000, and the guys help us produce that $3,000. Whoever works on that crew, what's available for our crew budget is $900 for the day. And that might be divided evenly. It might be divided with a higher weighting on the manager. For sales, likewise, it's 10% for sales. Anyone that brings in the deposit check and brings in the sale, puts it on the calendar. So there's a process. I require a check. The check's got to clear, and then it's got to be on the calendar and scheduled. That's a sale. And at the completion of the project, we pay out that 10%. So, so we offer basically 40% of our operations is available to go to human capital, and then 60% of it goes to physical capital. The main costs, like mainly insurance is our biggest cost. I mean, we have some equipment costs, we have some repair costs, we have some fuel costs. Those are our big guys. And then profit margin. And then I can compute, going back out to my matrix, and go, okay, how much equipment do we have? How much revenue are we doing? How much profit is coming off of this operation? Is this better than that? And so, for example, at some point in time, I'll probably package, I've done this 5 times before, where I build a business and I sell it. And I haven't had huge wins. Like, I've sold like $50,000 companies, $80,000 companies, like routes essentially. Like they're basically lawn routes, landscape. Had a tree company previously to this one, sold it, never got paid on it. So I messed up some of the owner financing on those, and that's a whole nother video. And that's a really funny story. But like, there's those metrics, the productized pricing for us seems to work. When I got into Bobcat services, I was like, all right, people are doing hourly, and I was like, it's really subjective. And then I figured out the productized pricing, and then I was able to stack the matrices where I was like, okay, now I can look at everything objectively and then dial in. Like, for example, we have a half-day rate of $1,800. We have a minimal service rate of $750, which is kind of like, what do you do with a client that needs something but there's not really, or a customer, anyone for that matter, that needs something but like it's not really a project. And it streamlines the operation to where I don't have to have, I don't have to retrain my sales guy and be like, oh, that's $1,800 over there. Let's charge them $3,000 for that. And it's just simple. It's like, how many guys are we going to have here? How much equipment are we going to have here? But we're not selling it hourly. We're just selling it as a package. So I hope that's useful for you guys. I'll catch you on the next one.